Good morning, good morning, good morning. It's time to rise and shine. Good morning, good morning, good morning. I hope you're feeling fine. Hello and welcome or welcome back. If you're new, my name is Jen. Can we just chat this morning? So I wanted to do like a health assessment on the channel here and just kind of talk to you guys and hopefully get some feedback. Yes, I know there's all kinds of analytics that I can look up, and I have been and slowly learning how to read them, but I'm like, can I just talk to my viewers and ask them? So I'm gonna talk about a few things, and I have some ideas of things for the future that I kind of want your feedback on, because I never want to waste your time. Like, I want to make this a place that you want to come to. So I had mentioned before a few times when I first started this channel, like, no idea what I was doing. Didn't know that like 1,000 subscribers was like the benchmark. And since learning that, like, so I'm a super competitive person, like, especially like against myself, you know, if that makes sense. And in just 6 months, this channel has grown to, I think I'm at like 785 subscribers, which just blows my mind. Just how fast things have grown. And I don't know why or how. And I know one of the questions, there's like tons of videos out there on this of like how to turn viewers into subscribers. And even when I look at the analytics, you know, on videos, there'll be like a huge chunk that aren't subscribers. So the age-old question is, how do you turn those viewers into subscribers? So I'm just kind of curious about that. Like, those of you that are subscribed, like when you came to this channel, like what made you stay? Like, what made you hit that subscribe button? What made you like commit to this channel? Not that this is a huge commitment or anything, but just kind of curious about that. And you know, maybe when I do hit that 1,000, I can do a video to share with others, be like, this is what my viewers have shared with me that worked, or you know, I'd love to encourage others as they grow their channels as well. And like I said, again, it's just been super exciting, and my husband's like my biggest supporter, and no matter like how large the numbers ever get, you know, if they get or whatever, like each and every one subscriber, like, it's just so exciting and so special to me. Even so, I know my husband doesn't watch like all my videos, like he's super busy, I don't expect him to, but he keeps an eye on my channel. He'll come home from work and he'll be like, you got another subscriber. So he's, you know, excited along with me. So I just kind of wanted to ask you, as we continue to grow along together, like, what content do you want to see, whether it be more of something or something new? Like, I never want to waste your time. And in my mind, like, there's always that spectrum of like, yes, this is absolutely like post-worthy, versus like, am I wasting your time? I'm not going to get on here and be like, hey, sup? I cleaned my ears out this morning. Like, you know, I never want to post just for the sake of posting. I know I refer to The Office a lot, but there's an episode where Andy keeps texting Daryl and is just like annoying the crap out of him, and he's like, dude, you are one text away from being banned. And then he texts him that I think there's like birds fighting out in the parking lot or something. And Daryl's like, okay, you're redeemed. But anyway, I never want to get to the point where you're like, okay, your videos are like super cheesy and boring and lame now, and you're like one away from me just walking away. So there's that fine line that I'm always kind of thinking about, you know, is this worth posting? I don't want to waste their time. So one of the things I question, and I know other channels do this, so maybe it's just me like overthinking things, but like when I get pin mail or make pin trades or something like that, or even like opening up blind boxes, you know, I think that's exciting, but then I'm like, am I posting this just to have a video to post today? You know, do people really want to see this? And I'm not sure. So like, that's one of the things that I'm kind of like, you know, should I just open up my mail and put my pins on the wall and be done with it? Or is that something you want to see? Somebody had asked like to see my collection of ears, which kind of caught me off guard because I only have like 15 pairs of ears, and sure, I can do a video on that. I kind of wait until I get like some more ears. I have a bunch of Artland pins coming, so I definitely wanted to do a video of you know, my Artland pin collection, or I could even do a video on my pin collection as a whole. My Jim Shore collection is growing. Again, like I want to wait until I have more to do a video on that. And again, I've done videos on my artwork, and I do love music. So those are kind of the genres, niches that I've done so far. You know, are there any of those, and unboxings, any of those like you want to see more of? Is there anything new that you want to see that's either like in those categories or outside of those categories that you think you want to see on this channel? So, oh, my neighbor's mowing our lawn. We have the greatest neighbor. Thank you. An idea that I have that I am excited about this and super passionate about this, and I want to start a segment called Real Talk Tuesdays. I don't know if it would be every Tuesday, because again, I don't ever want to post just for the sake of posting. I want to make sure that it's good quality content. And if someone would ask me to describe like what they could find if they came to my channel, like 2 words come to mind. The first one is authentic, and the second one, passionate. And I really just want to talk about a lot of the things that just other people shy away from talking about. That's just, that's where my heart is, that's where my passion is, just really just due to life experiences. Like I want to be that voice that I wish was sounding out, you know, years ago for me. There's a saying, and don't be offended by this, but it's, there's 2 types of people in this world: those in recovery and those that need to be. And what I mean by that is we all have baggage that affects us in ways that we just would never think. In these past couple of years, just through my own recovery and just learning things, I've learned so many things where I'm like, oh my goodness, like I wish I could just download the same information to like everyone on the planet, because it would blow your mind, and so many things would just make sense. You'd be like, oh, like it's crazy. I kind of want to look to you guys for ideas of what topics do you want to see discussed on Real Talk Tuesdays. And I'll kind of mention some that have kind of come across my mind that I think would be good. If you're not comfortable like mentioning a topic like publicly, you can find me on Instagram at Doyle Disney, and just send me a private message and be like, hey, you know, what about this topic? And I'll keep that strictly confidential. I'm not going to be like, hey, so-and-so said we should talk about this, you know. And obviously, I mean, not every topic, it's just going to depend. I'm certainly not an expert on anything, but I'm here to just be open, authentic, and just share in our life experiences. There needs to be more of that in the world. So there's a quote from a book that just sums up everything for me, in terms of like why I would want to do this Real Talk Tuesday kind of thing and open up things for discussion. So I can't find the exact quote, but I know enough to explain it. So this is a book, we had done a study on this a couple years ago, and it's called The Cure. And it says, what if God isn't who you think he is, and neither are you? And if you're not a Christian, like totally fine. Like the basis of this will still make sense. And in here it says, what if like the deepest, darkest, like worst parts of us were known, and we weren't loved less, but more in the telling of it? And that's kind of just my whole basis for wanting to do this. And maybe like talking about this book would make a great like topic just for like the first one to kick things off. You know, if the worst of us becomes known, it's just almost unfathomable to think that we would be loved more. And that was my experience. Like I lived years like just in secrecy and shame. And I can attest to, you know, starting to bring some of those things into the light and just being met with grace and love. And I want to be that voice for others and provide that safe space. And again, like I don't know how safe YouTube is. So I mean, you I will put myself on the chopping block and be like the open book and talk about these things. You don't have to feel like you ever have to like publicly comment. You can send like private messages or whatnot. I want to put these things out there. Another book that I had read here by Nick Stumbo, it's called Safe: Creating a Culture of Grace in a Climate of Shame. Again, just trying to lay that foundation of my passion behind like wanting to do this. Like shame is just so prevalent, and we need to be creating these like safe spaces for people to talk about things, and just lighten their load and allow others to just come around them and walk with them. You know, it's a breath of fresh air when someone is just like open and vulnerable, and you know, you can open up with and be like, I'm broken too. Like, and I know that sounds weird, but it's just such a breath of fresh air and refreshing, and it's amazing. You know, I talked about, you know, my story before. I'm very open about, you know, I had childhood sexual abuse in my past from a trusted church leader, struggled many years with anxiety and depression. I used to cut myself, many years with a porn addiction. I'm still currently on medication for anxiety and PTSD. I actually tried to wean off of it a couple months ago. I called my doctor back. I'm like, can I have that back, please? And that's okay. It's okay to not be okay. And that's just really the message I want to get across. No matter what it is, like, you are not alone. I guarantee it. And that's kind of what shame does to us. It makes us think like we are the only ones dealing with something or going through something, and I guarantee you, like, that's not the case. It's just that we don't talk about it, so we feel alone. So I did write down like some of the topics that I thought might be good, but obviously, like, I would love to hear from you. Like, what topics would you love to see discussed? I might not be able to tackle all of them or feel like I have enough knowledge to, again, provide any type of like quality content, but on the topics that I feel that I can, I certainly will. You know, we talked about, I think these two are like a great place to start, like talking about shame and just like bringing things into the light. Infertility might be a good topic. So I've been married 15 years to my husband, love him to death. We're still trying to get pregnant, and I haven't discussed with him. I'll have to talk to him first and ask him, be like, hey, are you comfortable with me like sharing this process, kind of thing. So I'm 37 years old and he is 43. So, you know, we do feel like time is ticking. We have done infertility treatments in the past, and we're getting ready in these next couple months to try again. So I know that's something, you know, like, hey, let's talk about it. If my husband's okay with me sharing that process, but that was an idea I had. Again, we can talk about like shame and just the way what that does. So I think a great topic would be wandering eyes in a marriage. And again, you know, I mentioned porn addiction or sex addiction, and people shy away from that, like, oh no, like, that's not me, and that's okay. But I mean, trickle down as to like what all kind of applies with that or stems through that, or where those roots kind of go. And you just think about like our culture and how many people like cheat on their spouses, the sexting, the affairs, the broken marriages. You know, it all does kind of tie in. And in my journey, this is one of those things where I started to learn things and how the brain works. I'm like, oh my gosh, if people only knew this. Like, so I get super passionate about like sharing these kind of things. And so one of the books I read was The Fallacy: Exposing the Deeper Meaning Behind Sexual Thoughts. And again, you're like, why are you talking about this? Be like, I get it. I know, like, it can be weird. But again, like, once we start talking about this, like, as if it's a normal thing and happens to everybody, because it does, like, then we're not as ashamed or embarrassed to talk about it, and things just start to make sense when you realize you're not the only one. And how many affairs would be prevented if people would just stop and think and be like, why am I thinking this way, kind of thing. I'd actually taken some notes when I had read this book. So just to give you an idea, like, because this will be interesting. Just because we feel some sort of attraction to someone for a wide variety of reasons, that does not mean you are destined to have sex with them. There's going to be attractions between you and a wide variety of people in your life, but it doesn't mean that it needs to take root there and blossom and grow into something inappropriate. So many times people think that their fantasies are a roadmap to future fulfillment. They are anything but that. It's a roadmap of their rocky past. If you have people make a list of their most devastating tragedies in life, or their scariest moment in life, or their greatest disillusionment or disappointment, and you also have them make a list of their most unconventional fantasy that come up in their heads when they're in the state of sexual arousal, you will find that these two lists are mirror images of one another. It's the brain's way of compartmentalizing pain long enough to make room for pleasure and create a storyline that undoes the pain and the powerlessness of things we experienced in our past long enough that those pleasure channels can start working. And it's just so crazy. And it's not like, this isn't like a one-off, like off the deep end author. Like, again, like as I started like digging into this, and not just through books and authors, like when I found counselors that specialized in trauma and things like that, like this is the real deal. Another good one here is called Unwanted by Jay Stringer. Excellent book. How Sexual Brokenness Reveals Our Way to Healing. Again, same thing. Instead of like, this is wrong, I need to stop this, like why am I thinking this way? It kind of takes a different approach into like, okay, let's open up and talk about this, which can be really hard because it's embarrassing, but you know, in a safe place with the right people, your answers are found in there. So again, just like super interesting stuff that I wish the whole world knew, because it does like affect everyone on some level. We could do just a segment on trauma, and what I found interesting about trauma, like obviously like there's a big trauma in my past, and people might be like, oh, what, I didn't have like anything major happen to me. But here's the thing that I learned about trauma, and I don't remember in which book, but I'm sure it's somewhere. There's big T and there's little t. So there's big traumas and there's little traumas. Little trauma might be something along the lines of, you know, if you have a parent or had a parent growing up that was like a workaholic and was never there. And not to say that they were a bad parent, like a lot of times like our parents did the best that they could. But there might have been that emotional neglect there, whether they meant to or not. So that would be like a little t, little trauma. But you take that little t and compact it over a long period of time, it now has the same effect as one major trauma. So like the way trauma affects our brain and behavior and things like how the way we react to things or think about things, and we don't even realize like how it's all like connected down, like, oh, it's crazy. Oh my gosh. Another good book that I had read here by Krista Black Gifford, Heart Made Whole, Turning Your Unhealed Pain into Your Greatest Strength. That was a great book. Mending the Soul by Stephen Tracy, Understanding and Healing Abuse. That was a really good book. You know, we always talk about sex, you know, kind of like in a negative light, in terms of like cheating or affairs, but we don't really bring up like sex in a good way, in the way like God intended. And so some really good books on that here. This is by Shannon Etheridge. Oh, and actually, so this is the same author as The Fantasy Fallacy. She wrote The Sexually Confident Wife. And again, you know, Christian author, we're not beginning anything kinky here, but there's that. And then another one by Dr. Ted Roberts and Diane Roberts, wrote Sexy Christians, The Purpose, Power, and Passion of Biblical Intimacy. So, I mean, let's talk about sex in a good way. You know, that could be a topic. So these authors here, Dr. Ted Roberts and Diane Roberts, they actually did an entire study on, here, Diane Roberts. So they have Pure Desire Ministries, because I actually got their workshop, their workbooks. Pure Desire for Women, 8 Pillars to Freedom from Love Addiction and Sexual Issues. And again, I mean, that was something that I was working through several years ago. So I have their books here. But anyway, that's more of like an in-depth study, whereas, you know, they have this book here. Some other things I thought I might be able to talk about. When your dream job isn't what you thought it would be. That'd be a good one. I did land what I thought was my dream job a while back, and it lasted 3 years before I got burnt out. So, I mean, that could be fun to talk about. I could talk about my experience growing up in a foster home as a biological child. My parents were foster parents, but me and my sister were their biological children, but we always had 4 teenage boys in the house. Lots of stories to tell there. So, I mean, that could be something. That's kind of the list I've put together so far. I mean, throw any topics at me that you think might be a good idea for that. It's just something that I'm really passionate about, just like talking about things that don't necessarily always get talked about. I mean, I'll be very open and honest with you guys, and I want to create, I mean, I know it's YouTube, but I want to create like as safe of a space as possible. Another topic, now this one, I struggle with this one because I don't want to be like crucified, because I know this is a very public forum. You know, we can talk about same-sex attraction from a Christian perspective. It seems like it's either you're for, with the LGBT community, it's either you're for them or you're against them. But it's not that black and white. And, you know, I do have a good friend with same-sex attraction, and it was at that point that I really started diving into like trying to understand things from their perspective. So I mean, is that something we can talk about? I haven't read this book yet, but I'm looking forward to it. It's called Born Again This Way, Coming Out, Coming to Faith, and What Comes Next. There's also another book, I think by Jackie Hill Perry, called Gay Girl, Good God. I mean, same-sex attraction is a very real thing. How do we approach these things in love and not like say the wrong things and do the wrong things? And I don't know, like that could be an interesting topic. Another one, like kind of more broad, did this as a study a couple years ago. Lisa TerKeurst, Uninvited, Living Loved When You Feel Less Than, Left Out, and Lonely. This was a great book, great study that we had done. So Living Loved, or, you know, Live Loved, has really just become my motto these last couple years, and it just kind of encompasses my entire journey of like where I am now. You see, so I have this mug here that I painted, it has a butterfly and it says Live Loved. And I've talked about before, I have some fantasy pins being made, and as I was creating the backer cards for them, you know, I'm the creator, I can put whatever I want on them. So on the back of these cards, on the backer card of the pin, it says Live Loved. And basically, when you can get to the point that you are just firm in your identity and who you are, and that you are loved, like it just changes the entire way you are able to live your life. So those 2 small words just encompass everything for me. Live loved. So I mean, that would be a great topic to hit on. So yeah, so hopefully those are some good ideas. Hit me with some more. Like what would you want to see talked about? Like, let's get into these things. In summary, and looking for your feedback, 3 questions. One is just really out of curiosity, and maybe what I can share with others growing their channels, is what made you subscribe? you know, when you came to this channel, what made you hit that subscribe channel before, you know, clicking off the video. What content do you want to see in the future? And then share with me some Real Talk Tuesday topics that you would want to see in the future. I think that is it for today. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Bye.